Now, President Akufo-Addo has called on all world leaders to be courageous enough to undertake massive reforms of the United Nations in order to address imbalances in the global political systems. Nana Akufo-Addo says the UN cannot reasonably purport to preach peace and fairness across the world when there are traces of unfairness and imbalance in the UN bodies. Speaking at the 72nd United Nations General Assembly meeting currently underway in New York, the president said the time is long overdue to correct the imbalances in the US systems and give African countries better representations in the UN Security Council. On aid, President Akufo-Addo said he does not disclaim aid totally, but would want Africans to discard a mindset of dependency and living on handouts. He had rather strong words on Africa coming of age and the need to hold its rightful place on the world stage. President Akufo-Addo noted Ghana and the rest of Africa recognize that making sustainable economic progress requires a stable democratic system of governance. The president also seized the opportunity to update the United Nations General Assembly of his flagship education policy, Free SHS, which he describes as a guarantee for secondary education for all Ghanaian children.
We want to build a Ghana that will enable our people to deal with the rest of the world on an equal basis. I say nothing new when I draw attention to the urgent need to reform this organization. It has been talked about and scheduled for a long time, but somehow we have never found the courage and the will to reform the United Nations. Ghana supports the process of UN reform, especially of the UN Security Council, as set out in Africa's common position on UN reform, based on the Eswatini Consensus. The time is long overdue to correct the long-standing injustice that the current structure and composition of the UN Security Council represent for the nations of Africa. We cannot continue to preach democracy and fairness around the world. We cannot insist on peace and justice around the world when our global organization is not seen by the majority of its members as having a structure that is just and fair. It is indeed seen by many as helping to perpetuate an unfair world order. This organization provides the best vehicle for the world to manage its many varied problems, and we would undermine its credibility and fail in our duty if we do not reform the United Nations. We dare not let ourselves and future generations down. The time for reform has come. We do not want to be a scar on anybody's conscience. We want to build an economy that is not dependent on charity and handouts. Long and bitter experience has taught us that no matter how generous the charity, we would remain poor. We want to build a Ghana which looks to the use of its own resources and their proper management as the way to engineer social and economic growth in our country. We want to build an economy that looks past commodities to position our country in the global marketplace. We are not disclaiming aid, but we do want to discard a mindset of dependency and living on handouts. We want to build a Ghana beyond aid. It is an easier platform on which to build sustainable relationships. We believe it is time Africa comes of age and holds its rightful place on the world stage. This Africa will be neither a pawn nor a victim. This Africa will be honest to itself and to the world, and this Africa will shed its cloak of poverty and become prosperous. We are any illusions about the hard work that it will take to achieve our stated goals, but we are not afraid of hard work. We know that a critical ingredient in making sustainable economic progress is to ensure a stable democratic system of governance. I believe we're making this progress in Ghana. After years of political turmoil and the accompanying economic chaos, a consensus has emerged in our Fourth Republic. We have had political stability for the last 25 years under a multi-party democracy where regular elections are now an accepted feature of our governance. We've just started the free senior high school program, which aims to guarantee secondary education for all of Ghana's children. This program will ensure that all our children will be educated to at least secondary level, and money, or the lack of it, will no longer mean a denial of education. This has already led to an increase of over 90,000 children who have entered secondary school this academic year, who would otherwise have dropped out at this stage. SDG 4, which aims at ensuring inclusive and equitable quality education and promoting lifelong learning opportunities for all, will be within our reach by the target date.